Pleasant good afternoon, good evening, good night to wherever you are. Good night. Welcome to the Monday's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today is what? Monday, the 11th day of December 2023. Welcome, one and all. Welcome. Hope you're looking forward to a productive week. I can't really say that I hope you had a wonderful week and weekend because it was so tragic. All these accidents, all these deaths in our country. So yeah, we are all in mourning, and we will talk about that a little later. But welcome one and all. Share the live. Let the others know that we are on for the Monday's episode. My colleague, Mr. Clinton Conway, is already in the studio and he's ready and rearing to go. So share the live, share the live. Let's celebrate being in the land of the living. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. We have so much to talk about this morning. So much, as we have said repeatedly. You leave here one day. We left here on Wednesday, and we had some things in our mind to discuss. But so many things happened since then that you have to continue. You have to continuously adjust to make sure that we give you the news on the current and topical issues. So yes, so many things have happened since we last met on Wednesday, and we need to discuss those issues. Sad week for all of us Guyanese and even non-Guyanese, because we're all part of the human family, and therefore we all have to rejoice when there is need to rejoice, and we all have to mourn when there is time to mourn. But we have so much to talk about this morning. So share the live, and we're going to go into it very, very shortly. I know some people look forward for the roll call, and we're not going to disappoint you. We're going to do the roll call very quickly, because what we found is that from the time the program was scheduled, as is customary, so many persons rushed into the schoolyard. And when we went live a few minutes ago, so many persons ran into the classroom. Yeah, so we have lots and lots of people anxiously awaiting the commencement of the class, and we don't want to disappoint you in terms of doing the roll call and in terms of making sure the subjects actually are properly covered. I mean, when we went live, when we scheduled the program, Vibert has maintained his number one position in the class. Glenn was there, Ronald, Maureen, my countryman, George is here. Winston from the UK is very much here. Carlisle, Felicia. Then we have Earl, Patricia, Wayne, another viewer from the United Kingdom, is here, very regular. Brennan is here as well. Clay came in, and Clay came in what time? He came in here very early. Then we had Davy is in class. Pito from Queens is here. Floyd is in class. Keith, Francis Keith, the man is back from Melanie. He was touring. He went to Queens. He went to I think Connecticut, and now he's back in Guyana, watching us from Melanie. Then we had Denise Como from New Jersey is here. Tessa from I think Tessa is from Florida is here. Pamela is in class. Wayne Carlton, my squad mate, always proudly announce his number. He's here waiting. Who more we have? We have Jacko is in class. We have Brian. We have Courtney, Stan, Jakey is very much here. Stanford, Colin from Queens, Pauline, Ballad all the way from Linden, Princess Earl from the East Royville there. Ulrich, regular. Barbara, Sean, ex-sergeant Sean Rabindranath is in class. Evelina is here. Lyndon, Lucius, don't miss it. Charlene, welcome, Charlene. Lyndon, Emerson. Then we have family music. Then we had Rhonda is in class. BX, the one and only BX is in class. Everett from Texas is here. Desiree, and I know that Desiree. Let me try to get. Hold on. Let me get this here. I want you to see what that. One moment, just bear with me. Desiree says that she is celebrating her, hold with me while I want to get it right. Desiree is celebrating her 75th birthday tomorrow, right? She's celebrating her 75th birthday tomorrow, and therefore we want to wish Desiree pre-birthday greetings. Then we have Carville is in class, Doreen from Canada, my squad mate, Rastaman, Debbie is here, Karen came in, Terence from California is here, Monica, Isabella, very much. Rohan from New York. He says raining in New York and New Jersey and all over this place. Maxwell, 11704. Maxwell Beaton is here. The original black man is very much here. Vernon. Then we have Andel. I can't remember that name before, but welcome, Andel. Then we have Chilo is here. Patricia G is in class. Clifton is all the way from Paris. You don't miss any session. After Clifton, we had Anne. Then we had John, my short man friend, shooting friend is here. Then we have Henrik, David. Then we have Gordon from Canada. Old Police 6659 is very much here. Oren Beard from the UK is in class. Kevin is in class. Sandra Tilula is very much here. Gretel is in class. Monica. Then when we went live, the first person on Facebook was Robin, is here, followed by the other YouTuber, Eric. Then the next Facebooker, Raul, Joan is here. Danny, with my surname, Danny Slow, is here. And then we have Joyce. So yeah, welcome one and all. Share the live. Let people know that we're here. As we have said before, we have so much to talk about. So we're going to go straight in to the program this morning. And I think it is fitting this morning for us to start the program by paying a tribute to the fallen persons. So what we're going to do before we do that, I want us to all observe a minute silence in honor of the soldiers, the 5 soldiers who died in that tragic helicopter accident last Wednesday. So we're going to start the minute silence. On my count, we're going to start now. Yes, and the minute silence. And following that minute silence, I want us to pay another tribute to these falling heroes. And here we go. May their souls rest in peace. We're going to talk some more about it, the accident and the following what took place thereafter in a short while. But to continue on this sad note, I just want to announce the death of Father Gilbert Harris. Those of us members of the force who remember the Reverend Father was there. We understand that he passed recently. Then we also have the announcement of the death of retired Corporal 7781 Leland Godfrey Thorne, who died in New Jersey. I think he died on the county in USA on the 5th of December. And the arrangement I saw on the death announcement that, well, first of all, he was from El Dorado, West Coast, Berbice. And it is said that his funeral will take place on December 15th. They will be in New Jersey, but it also say that interment will be done at St. Albans, West Coast, Berbice. That is Sylvania, Belgium, West Coast, Berbice. He was 76. I remember Thorne as what we used to call bush police. I remember him as a policeman. And then we had the tragic death of a very good friend of mine, Clive Butts, former West Indian Guyana cricketer, former chairman of the West Indies selectors, passed away on with a fatal accident on the East Bank. I think it was on Friday. It's really sad when we observe these incidents, and we're going to talk about the accidents and the carnage that continues on the roads in Guyana. Then we also had the death of Joe Solomon. For the older folks who remember in the cricket fraternity, the cricket lovers, cricket followers, Joe Solomon, he died recently in the USA. I think he was 93 at the time of his death. I think Solomon was most remembered for the tight test in Australia. Remember the first tight test? He's the man who ran out the batsman for the test to be tied back in the 60s. I think it was 1960, sometime around then. In that famous West Indies team with the three W's, Where's All, Charlie Griffith, and all of those persons. Yeah, so Joe passed away recently. I remember meeting Joe because after he retired from cricket, he was very active as a coach in the estates and all of that. And I met him on several occasions. And so therefore, I want to say, may the souls of all those peace persons recently departed rest in peace. Some weeks ago, we announced the death of Keith Edwards, Chico, 7702. Information that came to hand recently is that Chico will be buried on December the 13th in the United Kingdom. Again, I say condolences to the relatives, friends of all those persons who have, all the deceased persons, and may they rest in peace and rise in glory. Let me bring in my colleague, Mr. Conway, at this stage. CC, good morning. What a bad weekend, what a bad week in terms of all these deaths and accidents.
It was a bloody weekend, Paul. A very bloody weekend. And let me say a couple of things to I know Torn well. We worked together in the interior. And let me tell you two humorous stories that we had. We had an officer, we know him well too, Paul, Rocco Robertson. He was a gambler. And he used to bet heavily on horse race, And myself and Rocco, we left early a morning to go to visit inspection at Massachusetts police station. Torn was in the office. So Rocco had wanted to bet on a horse. And he gave Torn the money and tell him to bet. Went in the interior, came back, and the horse won. Only to discover that Torn went late, and when Torn went to the horse racing place, the race had already finished. So he couldn't get to place his bets, and the horse won and he won some good money. So Rocco transferred him, I think, was to Monkey Mountain. And then I remember another incident with him at Kurpung. He was going around a certain female, and he used to slip in during the evening through the back door. And the guys that found out that he was going there. And how did they find out? They had a police dog named Bobby. So when Torn left to go to this woman, Bobby used to follow him. And Bobby used to lie down on the front step until Torn finished and walk away. And then that's how we get to find out. In terms of the army men, I know Captain Charles. I flew once with him to Kurapung Mountain, and I tell you, it was very, very scary. I had a good friend who had a airstrip there on the dredging operation. Also, I met Beaton and Sahood. During the bank robbery, the investigation of the bank robbery or the operations with the bank robbery, remember they robbed two banks at Rosal, and we had after they robbed the bank, we had a joint service operation to capture those men, those highly men who were armed with AK-47. Colonel Enoch Gaskin introduced me to Saud at a place called Burleson that's deep down in the Kanji area. And we became friends. And I remember one remarkable thing. We had lost track of two of the bandits there. And Saud made a raft out of mokomoko and floated down some way down the Kanji Creek to a cutoff point. And we were able to capture two of those guys right there. We became friends. The last time we spoke was on the 6th of September this year when it was my birthday. And he called me and wished me happy birthday. And the thing is that when I met him, Gaskin was in charge of the force in infantry battalion. And now, during his death, Saud was in charge of the same infantry. May their souls rest in peace.
Yeah, may their souls rest in peace again. Very sad time for Guyana. We're going to talk some more about that fatal crash. But let me say, perhaps on the brighter side, we want to wish some persons who recently celebrated birthday. First of all, today I understand today is the birth date of retired Superintendent Vibert Neblit. He's celebrating a birthday today. Also, retired woman Deputy Superintendent Mona Slow is celebrating a birthday today. We had belated birthday greetings to a very good friend of mine, Gregory Braffett, the umpire, West Indies umpire. He celebrated a birthday recently. Gregory is a very, very good friend of mine. Ex-policeman John Ames, my squad mate, a next very, very good friend, 9488, my squad mate, celebrated a birthday recently. We got to catch up at some time, John. And then we also had retired Superintendent Timothy Williams. I met Timothy a few weeks ago when I went to when I went to, Brian Joseph's funeral. I met Timothy there, and we had a nice conversation. Retired Inspector Ian Granham celebrated a birthday recently. Happy birthday to him. We also had a birthday of a former member, Errol Lewis, who is active in certain organizations in the US ex-GDF, ex-police organization. Errol celebrated a birthday recently. And the one and only Rhonda Lane, a woman of strength. Rhonda celebrated a birthday recently as well. I want to wish all those persons all the best, those who are celebrating today and those who celebrated recently, all the best for the future, long life, health, strength, happiness. I know, again, as I've said, this is a very sad time, but I hope you can find some time to thank the Lord for seeing you through to this new milestone. As they say, you went around the sun one more time, and we need to rejoice and we need to celebrate that. And if we want, as we're in the mood of celebrating, Ulrich, Jacko, Jakey, CC, and all of those guys, West Indies beat England in the ODI series. They had the final match on Saturday, and West Indies in Barbados, West Indies won and clinched a series, an ODI series against England. The last time they did so, according to what I read, was in 2007. So West Indies was able to clinch that series. And I guess we're all looking forward to the T20 aspect of the series, which starts tomorrow. I think it is tomorrow that starts. So let me bring in CC. I know the cricket fan, and you would want to also wish those persons belated and happy birthday greetings, and you want to make comment on the cricket as well. CC, that at least that was one bright spot over the weekend with West Indies beating England.
That's true, and I watch the match and I enjoy it, although had little thrills here and there, and I hope that they will do even better in the one-day competition. And I want to say happy birthday to the in the T20. Sorry, I want to say happy birthday to the persons who celebrated their birthday, especially Jackie Neblet. He was my first sergeant when I went to Mabruma. And I'm happy that, and also to Mona, and I'm happy that you remember Mona's birthday. So congratulations to all those persons who passed around the sun one more time.
Yeah, congratulations to them. Now, as I've said, let's look at this tragic accident involving the five, in which the five members of the GDF died. And while we mourn those persons who have passed, we also have to remember that two persons survived that accident. Two persons, I would say, miraculously survived those accidents. I want to preface what we are going to say about this incident is saying that, look, we don't know exactly what transpired. And therefore, we should avoid irresponsible speculating. Some of the things that I've seen on social media, and even some of the things that have come out from some of the more established, if you want to call them that, media, can only be described as irresponsible. And therefore, in this time, we should not speculate. We should just state the facts as we know them. And as we know the facts, this aircraft, as the chief of staff and the people have said, this helicopter left Camp Payangana sometime Wednesday morning on, they call it a command mission. Based on what they're saying, the mission was to visit those border locations. On board the aircraft, it was piloted, we understand, by Mike Charles, and that's like CC. I knew Mike Charles. I flew with him on a few occasions. They say that the co-pilot was a Lieutenant Andio Crawford. That is what has been released. On board that aircraft, we had retired Brigadier Gary Beaton, who by profession is an engineer. We had Colonel Saud that CC spoke about a while ago. We had Lieutenant Colonel Sean Welcome, and we had also Staff Sergeant Jason Khan on board. Those were the persons on board that aircraft. The aircraft left, and I think it had one stop. It stopped at a location. They say it refueled at that location, and then it was going to, I think they said Ettering or some other location, when, according to what they're saying, they lost contact. They lost contact, and the emergency signal was sent, which suggested that the aircraft might have had that is what Stephen Saad said, a hard landing, might have crashed, or he said that the device could have been manually activated. So almost immediately, they set out on a search and a search mission to identify where this aircraft was. Right? So I said to stop at Olive Creek to refuel. Now, the chief of staff, they called, once we learned that this aircraft went missing, the GDF announced that there would be a press conference at 6:30 Wednesday afternoon. Full marks for that. 6:30 Wednesday afternoon, the chief of staff held a press conference, and he indicated that this aircraft went missing. The helicopter went missing. They launched an operation to try to identify, but because of the weather conditions in the area, they had to abort that operation that Wednesday evening, Wednesday afternoon. And they would resume first thing in the morning. That's Thursday morning. Now, the disappointing thing for me is that once the operation resumed Thursday morning, well into Thursday, right, people started to speculate, and there was no follow-up press conference to let the public know what was the progress in that operation, and that absence of official information led people to all type of speculation. Some of them, as I've said before, very irresponsible. I think one of the more well-known social media outlet actually posted that, the thing, something to the effect that the helicopter was spotted and all the persons were alive, something like that, right? But that proved to be wrong. It's irresponsible. And then what happened? They claimed that they saw signs of life I think that was the next day, Thursday. They saw signs of life, but they could not have gone to rescue these persons. As I've said, no further press conference. It was not until Saturday. But before we get to Saturday, then Friday we learned that the aircraft, the helicopter was spotted, and based on what was conveyed, 5 of the occupants died and 2 survived. Or in the meanwhile, you had all sort of thing as though everybody survived, everybody died, so many persons survived, and we did not get any press conference. And I'm emphasizing press conference because releases were made. But let me understand, a release cannot suffice for a press conference. And I think that would have been recognized. That is why Wednesday afternoon a press conference was called, where you will get to say what you want to say. And the press operatives, the media operatives, will then ask questions to clarify issues. But when you issue a release, people don't get the opportunity to ask questions and to clarify issues. And therefore, it was very, very disappointing that having came out Wednesday afternoon at 6:30, and I said full marks to the chief of staff for that. And you gave that press conference. It was not until Saturday at 10 o'clock, I think they called the next press conference, at which time the bodies had been recovered, the body had been moved to the city, and all of that. They had this little ceremony at the Eugene Correa International Airport as the bodies and the injured persons arrived from the crash site. I am saying without any doubt that in incidents like that, you need to keep the media, you need to keep the press, need to keep the public informed in a timely fashion. You can't have a serious incident like that. You gave a press conference Wednesday afternoon. Then you had so many things that occurred in the following days. Aircraft spotted, people rescued, confirmed that persons are dead, and no press conference until Saturday. Then you're going to call a press conference Saturday to tell people perhaps what they already knew, that people died, 2 survived, and that type of thing. It is bad. And perhaps we don't learn. Perhaps we don't learn because when you see these incidents in the United States and elsewhere, and there are many, many incidents, especially shooting incidents in the US, and you should learn from them. They will come out and they will tell you what they know. You're not going to speculate. They're going to tell you what they know. And what the most important thing there is that they're going to keep you updated. My training is, and I did media training with the FBI and also at when I did police college in the UK, the BBC, and they teach you as senior police officers, you have regular updates. Even if to call to say you schedule an update and to say, well, look, at this time, there is no further information to give. Because what will happen then is that the media people will perhaps have questions, follow-up questions to ask that you can clarify. And that is the way to dispel rumors. I mean, the chief of staff and all of these people are upset because people came out with all kind of rumors and they were rightly upset. But I would want to say that maybe you are to be blamed because you were not providing timely information. You were not. And once you have an absence of information, especially in the days of social media, the void is going to be filled by all type of irresponsible people. I saw a tape. I was so upset. I think when it was first mentioned on on Friday, that is the day when the bodies were recovered, Gordon Mosley, to his credit, I read him on social media telling the person that he should take that post down because it was not true. Because the post was to the effect that these bodies, at least 3 of these bodies, were taken to the crematorium and were cremated Friday afternoon. That is what the post had said. And then I saw, I think it was yesterday, a video with the bodies being, or at least one body being taken into the area where the crematorium. And Gardner explained, if I should add, that the storage facility is there as well. But they jumped while and started that. And I saw the video with a body being taken in and the persons framing the thing, commentating to say that they are going to be cremated. And what we have from the officials, nothing. And I had to correct a lot of people yesterday who were telling the senator. I said, no, that is not true. That is not true. This body, the people cannot, despite what they say, that cannot be cremated like that. And let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to say what he has to say at this stage, and we will continue with this conversation. CC, I'm sure you would have seen on Whatabought all that transpired. What are your views, my brother?
Like you, Paul, I was disappointed with the lack of timely information coming from the army. And it resulted in a whole lot of speculations, a whole lot of rumors. I saw a clip where they're saying it's not Venezuelan military shoot them down, but Venezuelan living in Guyana. They're saying that it was shut down. And a whole sort of things that weren't true that was being circulated. And all because the army wasn't forthright with us and they weren't giving any information. And just a little thing, I don't think we should call it a press conference. To me, it was a news conference because you have the print and electronic media. But put that aside, they didn't do a good job in terms of keeping us abreast with what is going on and providing the relevant information that they had on hand. And if I may dive in just a little bit on the what they had, the news conference that they had, particularly the one both on Wednesday and on Saturday. The chief of staff was very cagey, um, a lot of times very good questions, but he not answering and he not giving good good answers to the questions. People want to know and people were probing and the perhaps the army has a problem in terms of dealing with aircraft flights. I recall that when Walter Rodney was killed, there was a flight to Kokwani and back, and maybe to out the country with Gregory Smith, and they were very cagey about it. Perhaps it looked as though, to me, like they're kind of covering up things. You know, I remember one question was asked um, about what really took place. Were those persons interviewed? And the chief staff said they gotta wait on the investigation. They were there down there, people were there down for over 2 nights. And all they have to do give the basic. You don't have to go into details. This is what we have so far. And you don't have to go into no details, but the nine information, persons talk to them down at ground zero. So they had to say a couple of things, or they were so shell shocked or they were so emotionally disturbed, like how the chief of staff was emotionally disturbed. Quite a lot of things went wrong. I can't say certain things on this episode, but I don't think I will give the army full marks in terms of informing the public what actually took place or what they knew at the time.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. I'm not coming to the rescue. I know that you would not. They would not have had experience in an incident like this. Perhaps no one in Guyana has the type of experience in terms of how you having experience and managed an incident of this nature. But that is where our training kicks in, because if we are trained for these senior positions, then we should have gone through um, this type of training which will guide us as to how we interact with the media, how we interact with the public, how we disseminate information at this critical time. And I'm saying, I keep emphasizing, in these days of social media, you have to be very, very proactive when you're in these senior positions. Because if you don't do that, a void is created, and then it's all kind of irresponsible people will come and fill the void. So to avoid that, you have to come out. And as I've said, even if to say that you have nothing substantial to say at this time, but with an incident of that nature, you cannot justify, in my view, giving a press conference or a media conference on Wednesday evening and then not until Saturday midday, sometime then before you come out again with a press conference. And I'm not talking about media releases, because media releases cannot suffice in when you have incidents of this nature. Cannot. Press conferences are so important because the people come, they get an opportunity. Not only media release, you will say what you want to release, but they don't have an opportunity to question you, right? Even if they phone you or they write you, but when in a face-to-face media interaction, it is far different from just issuing a release. And I'm saying, to have had a media conference on Wednesday afternoon and not again until Saturday is absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. That is not the way you manage these incidents. And when you are in these senior positions, chief of staff, commissioner of police, and all of those people, you have to be prepared to face the media and face the public when there are incidents. You can't hide. That is part of your job description. That is part of your responsibility. And I say this further, that if, as was suggested by CC a while ago, the chief of staff, who seems to be easily emotionally disturbed, if you can't face up to it and so on, get one of your senior officers. I'm sure they have qualified other senior officers who can go there. It's not something the chief of staff himself must do. But a senior rank from the GDF ought to be there to tell the public what has happened and to field questions from the media, right? So this the way the analysts, I hope they learn going forward, because you still have, even though you have the bodies recovered, I suspect that the post-mortem examinations will be done today, Monday, because Monday is normally a PM day. So you have other information that the public would want to know about: the funeral arrangements, the investigation, and that type of. You might not go into details of the investigations, but at least the investigation has commenced, because I noted the chief of staff said that the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority and the Ghana Police Force will be the ones conducting the investigation. And he eyed under that several times to say, well, they're the ones conducting and you have to wait on them. Well, I have some issues there off the bat. I don't know that the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, and especially the police, have the capacity to investigate a crash of this nature. I don't know that they do have that. I know, and I would feel that this would have been the time for them to call on outside assistance. They like to say they're calling outside assistance. Remember when you had the fire in October with Brignam police station burning down? President said you can get outside assistance. Never came. There are other incidents where the outside assistance never came. You had the damaging or the damning allegation from the sergeant about $30 million being paid to the head of the major crime unit. Or say, oh, we're going to get help. They brought in the RSS, and the RSS came and they left out a crucial vowel in the name, because I think they made matters worse. Because they came to say that they are going to review this investigation that was being done, and they claimed that they reviewed the investigation. They claimed that they were satisfied that the police were doing a proper job. There's the guy in the police force, but then it was revealed they never spoke to the person who made the allegation. So how can you be credible in that case? And the person who came was never presented to the public for him to explain. The Ministry of Home Affairs gave a distilled release. I'm saying these things to remind us that we need to up our game when we come to these incidents. And as far as I know, the experts in aircraft accident investigation are the National Transportation and Safety Board of the USA. And perhaps it's not too late. I did note that they called the name, say somebody, some foreign person was going to be there to assist in the investigation. NTSB are the ones who are equipped. I look at programs on the TV, and I noted when they have accident investigations involving aircraft, these people go all over to assist with the investigation. Because at the end of the day, Guyanese are so skeptical, perhaps justifiably so. They have been told so many lies in the past, especially in the recent past, that people are already speculating that there's going to be a cover-up. And you don't want that. You don't want that. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, when the investigation is done and the facts are presented, people are satisfied that a thorough investigation. Let me understand, everybody's not going to be satisfied. Everybody's, and you can't hope to satisfy everyone. But you want to make sure that you present a credible report and a credible account of what transpired. And the nation deserves that. We have 5 of our, and they're being praised, and rightly so. 5 of our brave souls just went away like that, snapped out just like that. And therefore, the country deserves to know exactly what transpired. The country deserves to know that. And this should not be a political thing. All of us All of us, sons, mothers, fathers, brothers, um, have perished, and we have a right to know. And going on to, let me say this. Let me say this. I don't know. Some people just don't learn. As I said, the failure to provide information. Then we learned on Friday that the bodies were going to be brought out on Friday, and they had this thing being covered where the survivors came out. The bodies came out. And do you know, as the bodies were being transported, literally transported from the crash site to Georgetown, the finance minister, Ashni Singh, is making a release about 6.5% increase to public servants. What bad timing. You want to tell me these people are so insensitive that as people are mourning, people are anxious to hear what has happened to these people. You're going to choose that time to send people into 4 in the morning, because that is what you did. When you are announcing 6.5% increase, there's not for anybody to celebrate. So it's people to hold there and ball some more. People gonna ball, as the country people would say, you hold here and you holler. Because when perhaps you had expected, because there was some release sometime last week or sometime, that they were expecting a 9% increase. But at that time, at that moment, when these bodies are being brought out, the finance minister, Ashni Singh, is making a release about a 6.5% pay for the public servants. How more insensitive can one get? How more insensitive? Let me bring in CC before I continue with this, CC. CC, did you note the insensitive announcement by the finance minister?
Certainly, certainly, I noted it. And what is 6.5? And I wonder where they get a point five from. And the thing is that you want your soldiers, you want your joint services to give you good support on the border. I thought if he had wanted to announce, this should have been the appropriate time for him to announce a massive increase for joint services, and perhaps never they give them some additional money, separation allowance, other allowances for performing on the border. You go to the border and work, you get additional money, substantive amount of money, and they are 6.5 is only will depress them. Will lower the morale. Somebody said that the morale is high. The morale is high. 6.5% can be high, the morale, and you need to give them something substantial so that other persons will want to go and join the police force, will want to go and join the army, will want to go and defend our border. Very, very insensitive. And I'm repeating that, the GDF fell down badly in terms of giving us accurate and timely information. I'm talking about initial information. They knew what happened initially, and that is what we were looking forward to. And it was sadly lacking. It was not available. But there are lessons to be learned. There are many unanswered questions, lingering questions right now, and they are not given the information. As you mentioned, perhaps it is as confidential as a RAS report.
Yeah, and then the insensitivity, in my view, continued yesterday. Because even before the people or these soldiers are buried, and we expect them to be buried with full military honors. Even before that is done, yesterday they had this ceremony on the opening of this new highway named Heroes, I think, highway or something like that. Before these bodies are buried, this was your force in the world. The people are, and I think it's just distraction. So you have this thing there, and even they were so it was so rushed. They were so anxious to get this thing done that let me show you what some of the nonsense that they did. Embarrassing. Look, even before they're so anxious to get this thing done that this is a sign that they put up the Heroes Highway. And look, commission spelled with 3 M's, COMMM. COMMM. They rush to get this thing done. And the question that I want to ask again, who looks into these things, and people will believe it's a small matter. It's no small matter. It is no small matter. You have a big ceremony to dedicate, or whatever you want to call it, this new highway. One would have thought that somewhere in the system you're gonna get somebody to do a proper check of these things. But no, no, this is the plaque what you're seeing there. The Heroes Highway, the plaque with three M's, COMMM and S and COMMMISSIUNED, whatever the spelling. But look, let me tell you this. These things are gonna happen, and no one is gonna be held accountable. And that is why they will continue to happen. It's an embarrassment. I'm sure by now, they might have seen it. Somebody might have told them about it. They're gonna run. If they didn't see, they're gonna see it now because they look at this program all the time. They're gonna run to have it corrected. But the damage is already done. It is an embarrassment to the country to have something like this put up without in all this big ceremony. So it's an embarrassment. And when you think that was all, let me show you something more. When you think that was all, let me show you what else they did. Look, this is it here. Let me remove this one and show you. Look, this is a flag. We call it the golden arrow. This is the flag of Guyana. And friend, it is on the road or on the ground somewhere there. The flag of Guyana at this function yesterday was laid out. They make some big flag, lay it out on either the ground or the highway. Look at it. Look at it. And we all know that at least I was taught that you never ever, even when you're lowering the flag, when you're lowering the flag, you never ever allow it to touch the ground. The flag should not touch the ground. But here you have a situation where it can only touching the ground. It is laid out on the ground. It is laid out. And I know that that is a no-no. That should never take place. So I want to know, where are these people who deals with protocol to advise this thing about these very important issues? These things are important because these images are beamed all around the world, and people want to know what really going on. Flag laid out on the ground. The word commission spelled incorrectly in an activity that is being conducted by the president. That is what we have. Shame on all of them. Shame on all of them. And again, as I say, just an attempt, as in my mind, to distract. It's an attempt to distract. See, what say you? I think you're muted. Hold on. You're muted, my brother.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I listened to the president in his address right at that square there. And he said that they make sure that when they put up the flag on the mountains there, that the flag didn't touch the ground. He said so. That they make sure that when they were putting up the flag didn't touch the ground in the mountains. Perhaps things in the bush and things on the coast they have different standard. And in relation to the word spell incorrectly, Paul, you will recall, and I was always have to talk about my commissioner Larry Lewis. He always used to say, there is no substitute for inspection. Inspection is an indispensable tool of management, and you are responsible for everything above your signature. There's no substitute for checking. You have to check, you have to inspect, and you can't say it wasn't me. You can't be like Shaggy and say it wasn't me. Or you can't be like Michael Jackson, say Billie Jean is not my girl and therefore Jade is not my son. No. You are responsible and you have to check. And I'm saying inspection is an indispensable tool of management. And I can't make them mistakes there. But you rightly mentioned, they made the mistakes and nothing gonna happen with anybody, just business as usual.
It's gonna be business as usual. Let me tell you about inspection, CC, and these functions, because as you know, when I was in the force at the TSU and elsewhere, operations and all of that, it was part of my responsibility to make sure that things go the way they have to go, especially you have these ceremonial functions and semi-ceremonial functions. And I learned a lesson many years ago, many years. I was not the person actually involved, but it taught me throughout the years of the need to check. And let me tell you the story. Desmond Hoyt was the president. We had a man named Waddle, was the director of music. There was a function at the national park involving many hundreds, perhaps thousands of school children. And on the program, they had at one stage an interlude of music by the Guyana Police Force Band. That was there immediately after the president spoke. On the program, prearranged an interlude of music. When the president finished speaking, the master of ceremonies invited the police band to to play the interlude of music. I know what was the song that was put to play? The famous song King Lear by Lord Nelson. The children, many of them did not know the words, but when it came to the chorus, they all knew the chorus, and National Park reverberated with the song. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie. Teacher Percy say, if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die. That is what reverberated. And that was immediately after the president spoke. I would never ever forget that. I would never forget that. And you know what happened thereafter? Of course, Waddell was put on the red carpet, and profuse apologies and all this type of thing. And thereafter, when I have had any function, and they said interlude the music, they had to tell me what is the song to be played. I remember when they opened, I was commander in A Division, and they had a reopening of the East La Penitence outpost. Gail Teixeira was Minister of Affairs. And when the program and I examined, said, I wanted to know what was the interlude of music. And she was there, she overheard me, she wanted to know why I would want to know what. And I told her, I said, no. Nobody is telling me interlude of music. I have to ensure that it is appropriate. And I learned that from that incident. And here you have people jumping around the place. They're not learning these things. As you said, Larry Lewis, I used to go to this thing with a fine teeth comb, word for word. Word for word, you have to be correct. And if you are incorrect, man, he would give you a tongue lashing out of this world. So we all who grew up in the system at those levels with Larry Lewis knew that you have to come good. When you come to Lewis, you have to come with your A game. You have to come with your A game. Now, in terms of this accident, the questions, well, no, I would hope that the investigation will also cover the fact that you are all of these senior persons on one helicopter. And that is a question that is being asked. Why that many senior persons on this one helicopter? Brigadier Best, well, the pilot, I don't think you can question the presence of the pilot, but I had the head of the infantry, I had the head of the reserve on this one helicopter, right? And I hope again that they learn from that. And the question too that is going to come now, what next? As I indicated, I suspect that by now is what? Now is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock. I suspect the postmortem examinations would be finished. Postmortems have to be finished. Once the postmortems are finished, then you're going to talk about arrangements for funeral, because one can expect full military honors for all of these persons involved. They spoke about the investigation, as I've said. Yeah, but when you see the air police doing the investigation, I guess the police are going to take statements from witnesses and from all of these people. That may be the extent of their involvement in this investigation. But in terms of the actual crash, that has to be the Civil Aviation Authority. And we're saying, I'm not even sure that in Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has the competencies to properly investigate this matter. I hope they recognize that and seek appropriate help. I hope they do that, because again, at the end of the day, people want to know exactly what transpired. Then, as I said, the funerals, then something that is disregarded in Guyana. We don't pay much attention to it, but it's counseling, especially for the survivors and those persons. Proper professional counseling. That must have been a very traumatic experience for those two survivors. To have crashed in the first instance, to have survived, and then to have been there with the bodies for all this length of time, it must take effect on their mental. And I would hope that they will look into that aspect of that. And then, of course, care and attention to the survivors, care and attention to the families of the deceased. Many times these things happen when they come out with big statement, oh, they're going to be taken care of and all of that. And couple morning down the road, you don't hear anything more about it, right? Yeah, Everett, I made the point. NTSB is the way forward. I believe NTSB, I would want to say, perhaps is the only way forward for a credible investigation into this matter. Only way, because they said they recovered the flight data. I'm sure that Guyana does not have the capacity to decode the flight data recorded. So that has to be sent overseas. And I expect, I will not expect, I hope that they use that opportunity to seek assistance from overseas. I am sure many overseas persons, especially the US and other of their brothers and sisters, will be willing to provide the necessary assistance for them. I hope so. I hope that they do that. So you have the investigation to be done. The question was asked at the press conference on Saturday by one of the persons there about the recovery of the helicopter that is there. Chief of Staff Cyril Daga, the investigation. But that is an important aspect too, to recover the wreckage, because a lot of evidence, I suspect, will be there. And therefore, let's wait to see, because in this country that is not a real country, next 2-3 mornings, something else happen and they move on from this, leaving the families alone to grieve for their last ones, right? They move on because things are so fluid in Guyana that, God forbid, next 2 days something, some other major disaster, and they forget about this and they move on. Let's see, do you want to say anything more about this before we move on to this next very, very important topic? And I refer to the meeting that our president is due to have on Thursday with the president of Venezuela. Do you want to say anything further on the crash at this time? Because I suspect when we come again on Wednesday, we're going to have more to say about it. You're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
They, to be fair to them, I saw photographs of some psychologists around, including females. And as you rightly mentioned, there gotta be a proper investigation with experts. NTSP, as you mentioned, should be, or not should, must be involved. And you mentioned about the aircraft. I want to feel also that the makers of that aircraft, the makers of that board, should play some role in investigation, and there must be a proper analysis, not no wishy-washy thing, a proper thing. Some of the best men in the army has gone to the great beyond, and there are numerous questions, Paul. I don't want to mention this, but numerous questions, and they need to ensure that we have proper investigation. And just to recapping that, they need to inform the nation, give us information what they know. We don't want them to lie, but just give us the proper information so that people don't go and spreading rumor and spreading false and other false reports about what really took place.
Yeah, well said, my brother. Let me move on to this meeting, this proposed meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Thursday between President Ali and Nicolas Maduro. Look, very few things will shock me or should shock me, but I must admit, when I learned of this meeting to take place on Thursday in St. Vincent between Guyana's president and the Venezuelan president, I was shocked. I was shocked. And the reason why I was shocked, because Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, has been repeatedly making the statement that there's no bilateral discussion on this issue. And let me read what he is reported to have said, if you recall properly. The president is reported to say Guyana's land border is not up for discussion, as it is currently before the ICJ, and when adjudicated, will be fully respected by Guyana. The president on numerous occasions has made it explicitly clear that the case before the ICJ will not be an issue for bilateral discussion. So the question that I want to ask, if that is so, that the border issue is not for discussion, what is this meeting about? What is this meeting with the president of Venezuela on Thursday in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? What is this meeting all about? And then to listen to Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, a man who I believe is acting in his own self-interest. And I will discuss that perhaps not today, but on Wednesday. When you hear what he had to say, he is saying that the negotiations for this meeting started sometime in September of this year. Listen to this carefully. That is what Prime Minister Gonzalez is saying. That the negotiations between the Venezuelans and the Guyanese and himself, involving also the Brazilian president, perhaps even the United Nations, started in September of this year. And we, the Guyanese public, can know nothing that this thing going on. Nothing. We know. All we learned a few days ago or yesterday or whenever it was, very recently, is that the president going to St. Vincent to meet with Nicolas Maduro. And he's saying that the Guyana land border, and I know the language land border, so is it that you are going to be willing to discuss the maritime issue where your vice president had said that they could have gotten a little concession in the maritime area? Is that what this discussion is about? This thing stings to high heaven. The suddenness of this meeting. And listening to some experts, real experts, diplomatic experts saying that it is unusual for the heads of government or state to reach like that without force involving the persons who are perhaps at the foreign affairs level and those ambassador level to sort out certain issues. Then we don't hear nothing about the agenda. So if this is not you saying that you're not going to discuss this, is Maduro on the same page? Because I'm sure that President Nicolas Maduro is going to St. Vincent to discuss this border issue, because he's been saying all along that he does not recognize the ICJ as having the jurisdiction to deal with the matter, and he's claiming that the matter should be resolved under the Geneva Agreement, and failing to say that the ICJ came out of the Geneva Agreement. Because again, I have to remind our viewers that when this thing was signed in 1899, the arbitrary award gave the boundary as it is now, Essequibo to Guyana. And for those of you who may not remember, it was British Guyana then and Venezuela, and the Americans got involved, and it is Venezuela who insisted on this arbitration. Venezuela. The records will show that that Great Britain went there kicking and screaming. They did not want no arbitration. But eventually they gave in because the president of the United States perhaps encouraged or perhaps coerced, whatever you want to say, but the British did not want to go there. Then they decided 2 representatives from Venezuela, 2 representatives from the Great Britain, and a Russian to chair the proceedings. They went there. At the end of the day, having listened to all the evidence and all of that, it was unanimously agreed that the Essequibo, as we know it now, belongs to Guyana. And what they're not saying too is that in that agreement, Venezuela got land. Brazil also got some territory. And that thing went on. The records will show too that in 1905, Venezuela took part in the surveying to demarcate the boundaries. They also took part later to go and plant the plaque where Guyana, Brazil, and Venezuela meet. They agreed that is the point. It was not until in the 60s then they decided to say that they no longer recognize the ICJ decision. And why did they do that? Someone of the junior lawyer on their team, when he before he died, he wrote some memo which is claimed that should only be released when he is dead. And when he was dead and they released it, he claimed that there was some type of coercion or some type of on-the-hand movement between the Americans and the British for them to get the Essequibo. And on the basis of that, Venezuela decided that they're no longer recognizing this award. So they had the Geneva Agreement. And the Geneva Agreement said, look, y'all talk about this thing. Y'all appoint what they call United Nations Secretary General appointed the good officer. One person from Venezuela, somebody from Guyana, United Nations mediated, and they went about talking about this thing for decades and did not get any place. Now, the Geneva Agreement also said that if this talking then go no place, the United Nations Secretary General can decide on the mechanism to have this matter resolved. So the Granger administration, I think it was 2018 or thereabout, sent it back to the United Nations Secretary General and said, look, the talking that we're doing ain't getting no place. The Geneva Agreement provides for you to intervene and to decide on a way out. And the United Nations Secretary General said, well, the ICJ will decide this issue. Not Guyana, the United Nations Secretary General. Venezuela then decide that they don't recognize the jurisdiction of the ICJ to deal with this matter. And the ICJ have said on 2 occasions at least that they have the jurisdiction and they are going to deal with the matter. Even recently, as recent, I think as the 1st of this month, they gave the interim decision on telling Venezuela that they should not do anything to interfere with the border, as we know. And the people blatantly disregarded that. They disregarded that. And they went ahead and they had the referendum. The referendum, according to the president, Maduro, says, question 5, says that Essequibo should become a state of Venezuela. And they are making steps to make sure that that decision of the referendum is given effect. They are saying too that the map of Venezuela will be drawn over to make sure that Essequibo is included. They say that they're going to come to Essequibo, they're going to do census, and they're going to issue Venezuelan identification card. And in the face of all of that, as far as we know, our president is going to this meeting with Maduro. What do you believe he's going to tell you? You believe you're going there to talk about the migration from Venezuela into Guyana? The only reason that Maduro is going there because Maduro wants to, as he has been saying, this thing should have bilateral talk. So to say that you're going to this meeting, but you're not discussing that, to me, as a layman, I'm not diplomat, but it doesn't make any sense because Maduro's already said, and let me read what he said night before the last or something like that. He made a statement to the effect, here, and let me read it, Maduro said, it was Saturday night, I think, Guyana accepts dialogue with Venezuela as the only way to resolve the controversy. President Maduro is already doing the victory dance by saying that Guyana accepts dialogue with Venezuela as the only way to resolve this controversy. That statement was made since Saturday night, and I don't know that the DPI, that's the Department of Public Information, or someone of these government agencies has pushed back against that because Maduro is telling the Venezuelan people in the world that Guyana basically now has decided that this ICJ thing ain't working anymore. Dialogue, that is what he said. Let me read again. Guyana accepts, that is what Maduro is saying. Guyana accepts dialogue with Venezuela as the only way to resolve the controversy. How do you interpret that? I interpret that to mean that Maduro is telling the Venezuelans that Guyana decide that the ICJ cannot determine this border controversy. That is what I understand it to mean. And I think I get a little good comprehension. I might not be the brightest bulb in the room, but I sure that I'm brighter than many others. This bulb is brighter than many others. And there are a lot of other questions to be asked. But before I ask those questions, let me bring in my colleague for him to have his say on this part of it. CC, when you got to come and help me out here, but I really can't understand if you're saying that this land issue, this border issue, will not be discussed, no bilateral discussion, but you're going to this meeting. So what are you going to this meeting for? Tell me, CC.
When I read it, Paul, I was shocked. I had to read a couple times because somebody from Canada sent a note to me that our president going to St. Lucia to talk to Maduro. And I want to know what he's going there with. Perhaps he's going there with open arms. And then when I look on the other side, Maduro, he has crossed the Rubicon. There's no turning back. He's going there fully loaded with his 7 point strategic plan that he announced recently. And it included annexing the entire Essequibo, giving ID cards and citizenship to persons, Venezuelan citizenship, to persons living in Essequibo. He spoke about threats to ExxonMobil and others. And the others include where people like miners operating in the Cayuni, in the Mazaroni, in the Pataro, in the Rupununi, in the Essequibo itself, persons operating at places like Yarakito, like Ikarku, like Moruco, like Kurupung, Majo, and like Bartico, Baramito, and all those places, all those operation associates, the entire, all those people are in the entire Essequibo. And you tell me our president going to discuss what? To talk what, Paul? I don't understand that at all. And the Venezuelan president has not recanted his story. He has even appointed a major general to be in charge of Essequibo. And and so many things that he has mentioned in that 7 point strategic plan. And our president, and he gave them 3 months, give ExxonMobil 3 months for which to pack up and go along the way. And anybody else who wants to do any mining or any operation in the Essequibo has to get permission from Venezuela. He's holding on to that. I say he has passed, he has crossed the Rubicon. And those who want to know what talk about Rubicon, just read a bit about Julius Caesar, and you know what I'm talking about. I don't have time to explain. And our president is getting ready to talk. And who arranging it? Ralph Gonzalez, the man who told President Height that he must open up your chest and take your blows. And when the woman they shy a brick pony and bust the head, he make the police charge for wounding. He didn't open up the chest and take the, perhaps the injury that he received is bothering him. That he's trying to make peace with Guyana and Venezuela. The whole thing. I really don't understand. And they're going back to the good. It's going back to the good officer process that didn't work. We say no. We say no. That we're not going to discuss anything. And here is it. The president picking up himself and towards the gun. I wonder who is carrying. Diplomatic things has got to work. The president shouldn't get involved at this stage with the discussion with Maduro. Let diplomacy work, but diplomacy can't work because we don't have a good diplomatic corps. We say we appointed, we nominated Juan West Charles to be our ambassador in Venezuela. We have not heard a word from Juan West Charles so far. We don't know if the Venezuelan accepted it or not. And we hear another name being branded about to be the ambassador. We don't have good diplomacy. We don't have a strong diplomatic corps so that diplomacy can run. Diplomacy is, besides the first line of defense, and not attack. And I'm surprised that he had talked with Aubrey Norton, and then again he talked with the Aubrey Norton, but he talked on the telephone. They must sit down together, man to man, and eyeball one another, and have discussion. So the whole thing is shocking. The whole thing is shocking. I don't see why the president must go there if you don't have things to discuss. They're going for hear what the man said, and the man going to repeat himself. Essequibo belongs to Venezuela, and he ain't stopping there. There is what the referendum tell you, that Essequibo belongs to Venezuela.
Yeah. The students have asked to make two corrections. You did say St. Lucia, St. Vincent, they're going to meet. And
Okay.
this statement attributed to Ralph, he told David Granger that not I. So them
Yeah.
students, bright children, them students say
Okay.
Mr. Conway made those two mistakes. So yeah,
I don't know
we
how
do
all
make
of this is
mistakes.
going to height. Yeah.
We do make mistakes. When we make mistakes, we are not going to tell you that you didn't hear correctly. You did not listen. We're
Yeah.
not going to say that. We're going to correct the mistake. Now let
Yeah.
me say this.
I made the mistakes and I
Yeah, you made
apologize.
the mistake. I know you're big enough to say it was a mistake. Can't lie, you just mea culpa, and then
Yeah.
you move on. Now let me say this: the president is saying, that is Guyana's president, that he ain't going to discuss this border issue. But here what Ralph Gonzalez said. Ralph Gonzalez said matters consequential upon the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela. Let me read about Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, under whose auspices the meeting is being held, stated that the meeting is to discuss matters consequential upon the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela. That is what Ralph Gonzalez said. And you ask a very interesting question. It seems as though the president is bent on going to this meeting, ill-advisedly, I would think. What is the agenda? What is there, if you have all of these, what is there to discuss? One would expect that when you're going into a meeting, any meeting, especially a meeting of this nature, that you would have worked out an agenda long ahead. By now, the agenda should be there. These are the issues that we're going to discuss. So there should be no gray area where you say you're not discussing the border and Maduro going with something else. The agenda should have been clearly worked out. So when you discuss with the opposition leader, and I agree, no telephone call, not no telephone call. When you have the discussion, face-to-face discussion, you ought to be able to say, these are the agenda items. And as one experienced diplomat said recently, that when you have these engagements, it's not only what is on the formal agenda, there is also an informal agenda. And you are right, we don't have diplomats of quality. So who will comprise this delegation to go to St. Kitts, to St. Vincent? Robert Prasad, the foreign secretary, UTAD, the foreign affairs ministers, perhaps the former prime ministerial candidate Elizabeth Harper. They are the persons you're going to take. What happened to all the experts in this area? I hope they are given consideration. People like Ralph Ramkaran, Dr. Scotland, Carl Greenidge, Dr. Corton, and all those persons who have tons and tons of experience on this particular issue. Because despite what the president has said, this meeting, in my view, is nothing more than to discuss the border issue between Guyana and Venezuela, the controversy, this thing that is created by Nicolas Maduro to try to save some face in his own country, where he is facing serious crisis. He's facing serious issues. That is what the man wants. As I said, the man already dancing the victory lap. He has already said to his people that Guyana decide now. Guyana accepts. Let me read that back. Nicolas Maduro told the Venezuelans and the world that Guyana accepts dialogue with Venezuela as the only way to resolve the controversy. The controversy to which he refers is the border controversy. In other words, that this can be interpreted. I interpret it to mean that he's telling them that Guyana is saying they don't want anything to do with the ICJ any longer. The dialogue. So the dialogue will start on Thursday. That is what he is saying. It cannot be interpreted any other way. And we are going to this meeting. And let me say this. How can you go into a meeting like that without clear preconditions? You are going there under duress, whether you realize it, accept it, or like it or not. The people have already had the referendum, and they say, we're going to annex Essequibo. We're going to do a census in Essequibo. I said the president blustering. That will never happen. They will never come in. So when they come to do the census, what are you going to do? For all you know, the people to do the census are already here. Only waiting. They're sleeping, only waiting to be activated. And you're making noise. You ought to have, if at all you go to a meeting like that, preconditions. You can't go, the man hold a gun to your head. Annexation of Essequibo. Censor in Essequibo. issuing of a license by the Venezuelan company in Essequibo. All of these things, the people who are exploring there now must leave within 3 months. Establish a military commander for the Essequibo. All of those things. A big gun to your head, and you decide that you're going to cave in and you go to the meeting. All the persons who perhaps try to encourage you to go to the meeting, Ralph Gonzalez, Mia Motley, the Brazilian president, all of them should have been told that I am not going to a meeting with this gun to my head. That is going to the meeting under duress. You're going under duress. And CC, you recall not so long ago when we had the issue with the officers, Brutus and others, who challenged the, took the Police Service Commission, which I was a chair, you were a member, to court. And Anil Nandalal, the Attorney General, wanted to mediate. And I made it clear, I am not going to mediate under the circumstances where these people have a lawsuit against the commission in court. That is under duress. I'm not operating under duress. If you want to talk this issue with, withdraw the lawsuit. That was my position. Well, they didn't do that, and therefore we maintain the position of the court ruled in our favor. So I'm saying that you cannot and should not get to a situation where all of these things have been done on December the 4th, following the referendum on December the 3rd, and you're going. What are you going there to gain? A photo opportunity? That is what you're going there to gain, a photo opportunity. And I said this thing calls, as you make a decision that you're going to go. I don't think that you're going to want to turn back at this stage, because that is the type of thing, the ego with this, you're going to say no. But then you ought to make sure, as I've said, there's a clear agenda, and you are surrounded by the most experienced persons, diplomats and other persons dealing with this issue, from whichever part of the world, whichever party they're associated with, whichever color they carry, whichever complexion, whichever ethnicity they are. Those persons should be there. Because we aren't talking here about Freedom House and PPP, you know. We're talking about Guyana's sovereignty, all of us, whether we like it or not. And as some commentators said, we don't want to know that when we wake up Friday morning to hear that Essequibo gone for real, as we would say in the country, gone for China. Gone. Because only, and let me say this too, perhaps I'll be a little controversial in saying this. I am saying that the president does not have the experience, he does not have the temperament to get involved in negotiation of this nature. Only last night, at the opening of this new highway, a British journalist had to speak to him about his tone, became very agitated, almost aggressive, and the man spoke to him about his tone. And rightly so, because I listened to the thing. And you're not being presidential when you get in, trying to get into argument and so on. And I suspect that when you go to St. Vincent, you're going to be confronted with a lot of situations, because the people want to insist that this border issue should be there to be discussed. And therefore, we got to understand this. And let me say this before I bring CC back in. Our time is almost finished. Ralph Gonzalez and is self-serving. Ralph Gonzalez, over the past years, has been carrying the flag for Venezuela. He went even to the United Nations and made the point that America illegally imposed sanctions on Venezuela. He has been running cover for Venezuela. This thing with Ralph Gonzalez and Mia Motley and some other CARICOM members is all about PetroCaribe. And Wednesday, I promise I'm gonna tell you some more about that on Wednesday. This is the oil story, PetroCaribe, 17 countries, some CARICOM, including Guyana, signed on to it since 2005 under Hugo Chavez, where they're given fuel and they pay, 60% of the market cost, and the other 40% is paid at low interest over an extended period of time. That thing became defunct some years ago. They're now trying to revive it, and Ralph Gonzalez and Mia Motley are at the forefront of trying to revive PetroCaribe. So it's all about self-interest. I hear Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, talking about both countries. She's giving the impression that both countries need to tone down. What is there to tone down? We have not been aggressive in any way. We have been the victims Maduro is the one who ratcheting it up and he rattling his saber and all of that. And Mia Motley, Ralph Gonzalez, and all of these things, all of these people talking about Guyana, they're equating Guyana with Venezuela in this issue. People are being disingenuous. And therefore, as I've said, they are self-serving, and we have to be extremely, extremely careful when we deal with them. We can sit back and accept Ralph Gonzalez as an interlocutor, as an honest interlocutor in this matter. He looking after St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I'm going to tell you more about the Petro-Carib arrangement when we meet on Wednesday. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to have his final say. Well, that's final for today on this issue with this meeting on Thursday. See, because I suspect, well, no, that's suspect. I know when we meet on Wednesday, the day before the meeting, we'll have much, much more to say, because I suspect that between now and then, you're going to have all sorts of things coming out. See, your say.
Yeah. I take the point that Guyana is an integral part of CARICOM and other blocks, and they're trying to make peace. They're trying to resolve the issue, but sometimes we too quick to say yes. There's time we have to stand up as a man and stand up as a leader and say, no, this thing can't happen. Don't mind. It mustn't happen. And I had to dive in my library and look at a quote from Obama during the 2012 presidential debate. And here's what he said. Occasionally, you have to say no to the forces inside of your party and those outside of your party. Let me go for. Occasionally, you have to say no to those forces inside your party and those outside of your party. That was Barack Obama during the presidential debate. And the time we got to stand up, tell CARICOM, no, this thing we not negotiating. And I always like to close off and say in this present issue that we have to look at our dime. Diplomacy, let the diplomacy work. The time is not right now for the two heads of the state to reach. It is not right yet, it's premature. Let diplomacy work. Look at our intelligence. And I was presently surprised when I hear Jack Dew saying that they gotta look and see if there are Trojan horses in Guyana. So the intelligence gotta work. Your military and your economics, your economy has gotta work. So say continue, let us look at our dime. And it's time that we can stand up as man and say, no, this thing can't happen and it must not happen, Paul.
It is time we stand up as a man, but you have to be a man. And when you say a man includes woman, eh? You have to have backbone. You have to have spine to stand up and say, no. It ain't going down so, as we would say. It is not going down so. Now, let me wind down by saying this. I posted some advice the other day to the police corporate communication unit. I'll call them the corporate propaganda unit. They outdoing themselves every time with their stupidity, their ignorance. They made a release. Some man was found with a Uzi submachine gun based on the picture. They described the thing. Let me see, the Uzi semi-automatic machine gun. The corporate communication unit reported that the police recovered a Uzi semi-automatic semi-automatic machine gun. And I had to tell them there's nothing like a semi-automatic machine gun. And again, I say, who monitors these releases? Who monitors these releases? I know one of my friends from one of the sister countries, when he saw this thing, the man had to ask me if now that we are faced with this threat from Venezuela, if we are manufacturing our own weapons. Because and I asked him what you're talking about. He said, you see, that we are reporting that they recovered a Uzi semi-automatic machine gun. And we had a laugh over it. Right? So I don't understand what is going on in this place. They have these civilians there in charge, and it would appear as though they have the authority to make releases without it being checked by others. And the man who is squatting there, the extended squatter, ought to know, because he came up through the TSU. You know about guns. You have to know that. I will be surprised if you don't know that there's nothing like a semi-automatic machine gun. But that is what you have. And again, these things, folks, are not trying to pick on these people. It's not me or someone trying to pick. So when we talk about the flag being placed on the road and the ground, it's not picking. It's not picking. When we say about you're spelling the word and incorrectly on something like that, it's not picking. You have to pay attention to details. You have to. You can't help it. And if you don't know, you have to get people. There are people in the system who know. Get them to guide you, get them to advise you. Because it's embarrassing to have these things out there. And as we come to the end of this year, perhaps I can't wait. Many persons can't wait for this year to end. It started badly, and it has continued that along. And if you know, for example, on New Year's Day, as we would say, half an hour rather, after midnight, you had the killing of the policeman and the next guy in Maikoni. Start situation. Policeman, Corporal McForce, I think it was, went to arrest someone. The man resisted, and his colleague who was nearby, who was armed with a firearm. Up to now, we didn't hear what type of firearm he was armed with. Open fire. He said he fired a few rounds in the direction of the man who was resisting. This is a man in a tussle with his colleague, and he fired a few rounds. Killed both of them. Right? So that is New Year's morning. We had the Madhya tragedy. 20 children lost their lives in that. You have road accidents. Up to yesterday again, 2 persons at Friendship. I have it there to think, but we don't have time today. On Wednesday, we're going to deal with this carnage on the road. I did say in the announcement for the program today that we're going to deal with the carnage, but folks, you could understand. We had to deal with this thing that came up with the president going to this meeting in St. Vincent. That had to be dealt with today. And so therefore, we're going to deal with the carnage maybe on Wednesday. Hopefully nothing intervenes to prevent us from doing that. We had that carnage on the road, right? We have a high-profile person like Clive Butts, a very good and dear friend of mine, killed on this new road thing. Killed. Man who is known all throughout the world, killed. Then you have the many murders, especially against women. So many women have been killed throughout the year. You have all these fires, apart from the Madhya fire, so many other fires in which people are losing their lives. And you didn't hear nothing from the Home Affairs Minister. Robeson Ben, man missing in action, not a statement from him. The extended squatter is there, all these things going on with this accident, nothing from him. The traffic chief come out like he's Usain Bolt. All he could tell you is about how many tickets were issued and so on. I never asked a question for a long time now. Let us hear how many of those tickets have been paid and whether the issuing of all those hundreds of tickets that you're talking about has had any impact on the situation. Obviously not. But it's just propaganda. It's just BS they're going with. You had, don't forget about this serious allegation against Nigel Dharamlal. All that happened this year, where it was alleged that he raped and buggered a little 16-year-old indigenous girl, and what happened? It was swept under the carpet. All that happened this year. Then you got the Venezuela action against us. And don't forget too, this year, the PS, Ministry of Home Affairs, Mayor Toussaint, arrested in Miami when she was in transit, or phone seized, and all of that. A prominent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs. All that happened this year. All that happened this year. And of course, you have the president deciding that the squatter should be extended. But here I'm saying that when we look at all of these things, I think yesterday, the president had declared yesterday a day of national mourning, national prayers, I think, day of prayers. We need divine intervention. But it has to be coming from people who are authentic, people who believe. You can't just wait and talk about divine intervention. You can't wait and talk about prayers. When you're not a believer, it don't work, sir. It do not work that way. You're an atheist, you're an agnostic, and then you come in for propaganda purpose and telling people about prayers and all this type of thing. So I'm just saying that if you don't believe, and if you can't, it ain't gonna ring true. Your hypocrisy will be revealed. So we had a lot going on this year. And folks, as we approach the festive season, again, I urge all of us to be safe. And somebody say, we can't wait for a one-day prayer. This thing don't work, so. I think it's Loving There sang a song some years ago. Talk about one-day Christian. Can't be a one-day Christian where all week you do the gods, all kind of thing. And then you come this Sunday or Saturday, if you're an Adventist, and you believe all your sins are going to be washed away, just like that. No, it don't work like that. It do not work like that. I noted too that on 2 occasions, I think it was on Friday, and then again yesterday during the president's address, he became emotional and shed a few tears. There's a good thing. That is a good thing to show that you're human. It's a good thing because I can't imagine Satan's son shedding any tears. I cannot imagine the devil's son shedding any tears. But you have to go beyond just shedding some tears, because other than that, we will believe the tears are what we call crocodile tears. And you have to show us that those tears are not crocodile. The first working day of the week. Again, I said we reflect on a very sad week. Past week, so sad. And let's join together and mourn with the families and the love and the friends of those persons who have passed, especially the 5 members of the Ghanaian Defense Force. And I say to us, be safe. And if God's willing, we're going to be here on Wednesday for the Wednesday's edition of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Until then, stay safe. And, we got to say, not a blade of grass. So let me find it and play, not a blade of grass, as I take my exit from us today.
We are a peaceful people, struggling, we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about